feel like you should never take today's worries into tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I mean, even now, like when I light my candles on my night, I'm like, okay, what am I trying to get here? So it's more of a case now of just thanking my world and my angel, and just sitting there in sort of like a happy little joy with myself, because I
Hmm.
don't feel like I need to do something to calm me down or put me in some state. But again, that's just me. It doesn't mean what everyone else does is wrong. That's just, that's just how I process things.
Welcome to Better Than Podcast.
My guest today is Indi RajPal, and he put something together for an intro. I asked him how he wanted me to introduce him, and he sent me this. We are in this constant search for this miracle, that source of light. The longer we search, the greater we separate ourselves from that very source. You're the miracle, the very lamb that shines the light. Join me through a journey of self-inquiry through all things fitness, nutrition, and understanding oneself, and awakening your potential. Strength and empowerment coach. So I met Indi through Bootsy Greenwood's personal development course. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's #GetCoached. You can just search that on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. I've been helping Bootsy put this program together, and I've met so many wonderful people throughout that process, and Indi is one of them. You can find him on Instagram at Coached by Indi. He is super into fitness and maximizing the body's potential, but also he is very interested in people's self-worth and helping them understand exactly how important they are, and to help them figure out what they want to do with their life, what their purpose is, and how they can share their best selves with other people. So I hope you guys really enjoy this conversation. Indi has been through a lot of difficulties in his life, and how someone can still be a gentle, kind spirit, even through adversity, is something that's really inspiring to me. And so I could listen to Indi talk for hours, honestly. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you have any thoughts about this conversation, please leave a comment in the YouTube. And if you want to learn more about Bootsy's program, you can just message me, admin@betterthan.world. And as always, I love to hear from you guys. Shout out to my boy Gary Crabb. He sends me emails regularly to let me know how he's doing, and I always look forward to them. And if any of you want to do that, I appreciate it. It helps me find, knowing what you guys are thinking about and what's interesting you helps me find people to talk to bring you so that you can listen to those conversations. So as always, reach out to me. I love it. You can find me elmafa1 on Instagram, or Lindsey Zimmerman on Facebook, the Better Than Podcast channel on YouTube, or Better Than channel, on YouTube. So yeah, I love to hear from you guys, and I can't wait to engage more with you. But in the meantime, I've got this great interview with my friend Indi for you guys to enjoy. And I'm sorry that it took so long to get it up. I had actual technical difficulties with hardware and things like that, and I could not get this episode up on schedule. So I'm really glad to be bringing it to you, even if it is a week late. And I have to plug myself for just a second. 1 second, guys. You can get a tarot card reading from me now if you like. And it's Firmhandtarot.cards is where you can book a session. And what I do is it's recorded. It's an hour long. You can do a general reading if you want, or you can ask me, a specific question. I don't mind either way. It's whatever you want. But I record that, and then you have access to that video in perpetuity. You can watch it as many times as you want. So again, that's Firmhandtarot.cards, and I hope to see you all there. So yeah, big exciting stuff going on over here. I can't wait for you guys to get a hold of me and let me know what you all are up to. In the meantime, here's my friend Indi RajPal. I want to know what you think about this. So I've been doing tarot readings. And so I started because Darby was like, you need to charge for this. And I was like, okay, because a lot of people were asking, and that's a really good thing, but I just didn't feel right about it for a long time. But she really helped convince me and wrap my head around it. But so I decided I needed to put some more, just, as much value as I could. So I started a tarot channel, and it's, I don't know how you list channels as private, but I'll figure out how to do that. But in the meantime, so I'm recording the tarot sessions and putting them up there unlisted, and then just giving the clients the links for them so they can go back and rewatch it. And I send them a shot of their card spread also. But so now I've been watching and going back and watching the readings, and indeed there are things that I said that I don't remember saying. It's very interesting to me. What do you think about that?
Maybe you're just in flow.
Yeah, right. But you would think that I would remember saying some of those things, and it's the things that makes the people go, whoa,
Yeah. Maybe you're fully absorbed in the moment. You're in flow, and you're allowing yourself to be fully expressed.
Yeah.
And that's it. When you're doing something you're passionate about, then there's no sort of blockage, is there? Even today, when I had this call with her, she was asking me questions about coherence and other things, and I was like on fire. And I came off thinking, where did that come from?
Yeah. How did that happen?
Because I get nervous with these things when people ask me these questions. But it was that just felt right. So I think when you're doing something from your heart and you care about it, it just flows.
Yeah, I agree. And it surprised me is all. I didn't realize, because I don't, I like tarot very much, and I think that it's a really useful tool, but I don't, I guess I don't know how I'm trying to say this. It's not something that I'm necessarily passionate about. I view it as a tool, like money or whatever. And it's, and the more I do it, the more I understand it. But that definitely wasn't it. It wasn't just that I've had a lot of practice. There was something else. So I think you're right. Maybe just tapping into the higher self a little bit and letting them come forward. That's how I've been kind of processing it. But it's cool. I like it. I definitely like it.
Well, definitely do a lot more of it then, because if it brings out something in you, because maybe for yourself, use it as a tool to watch back and remember, take the things that you said as kind of lessons for yourself.
Oh, for sure.
That's it. So maybe your subconscious for you something for these. So take away from that sort of thing.
Oh, very good. I'd say. Yeah, that's very insightful. Thank you for that. Jeez.
Because often we what is it? We're always trying to find the questions, answers to our questions, but they're always within us, aren't we? And sometimes you don't know how they'll come through.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there are underlying questions within you that are coming through the tarot that you're doing for someone else, but it's also bringing out a part of you as well.
Yeah, and that's maybe a sign that you can, put a pin in that and be like, okay, this is something that I need to pay attention to for later, for sure. Yeah, that's cool.
Could just be that. Another way of realizing I actually do know my stuff, really, and giving yourself the credit you deserve.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's always a problem for me, for sure.
We're gonna have a call every week now to work on this.
I love it. That's great. Yeah. Will you tell, because I don't know too much about your background, so will you kind of just talk about
the things in your life that are relevant to your perspective, and kind of give people a background so that they understand where you're coming from.
Okay. Interesting question. Where do I start? So
I make sure that I
let's just
leave it
start with
very
the
broad.
yeah. Let's start with the basics then. I guess. So I'm based in London. I've been a personal trainer for the last 15 years. That's my kind of like main business. But ever since I was young, I just kind of believed in more to life than what I saw on the external world. And I had my kind of issues growing up with like depression and limiting beliefs and literally lack of confidence and so forth. But then something within me always kept saying, don't give up. So I tried to figure out what that was. So from a very young age, actually, I started to go within and question my beliefs around my reality, the people around me, what actually mattered to me. And then I came across various tools and books and stuff. Like someone that made a big, profound impact on my life was a philosopher called Alan Watts. I came across his information when I was in my teens, and then other sort of teachings through like the law of attraction and going deeper down the rabbit hole with like esoteric thinking and so forth. And it's just became part of my life to think that, okay, there's more to than this physical world. So as a coach, I love training people from the physical aspect, but there was also like what was the underlying issues behind why they wanted to do what they do. So yeah, my sort of journey growing up was more a case of trying to find myself, because I felt like I was living a lie and not being true to me with my identity and who I was in reality, basically. So it was a case of questioning myself, what I wanted, and breaking a lot of barriers I had. But yeah, how do I answer this? But yeah, it's just so in a nutshell, I'm very much about being true to yourself and remembering what you've forgotten, basically, because I've always believed that everything we ever need is truly within us. That's all the answers and all the things we look for. So my life's kind of been about helping people realize that gift that they forgot. So it's almost in a sense that what makes me who I am is the fact that I can literally empower people to remember how amazing they are. And in some ways, I kind of light up the room with those guys. And no, that's what makes me who I am. I guess that's my strength as a person, because I was a product of a lot of pain growing up, and within myself, I kind of imposed a kind of attention that I needed to be some hope for people when there was none. So that was my purpose in life. So yeah, I guess in a nutshell, I am passionate about all things sort of health and fitness, but deeply passionate about things to do with the psyche and understanding why people do what they do, and giving people the tools to kind of awaken what's within them. I guess.
Yeah, so they can maybe find their purpose.
That's it. And I think sometimes it doesn't have to be this profound thing. Like sometimes your purpose can just be to just be here. That's it. Your purpose can be that you're just here to smile, or just the fact that you're here is enough. It doesn't have to be this grand thing of like you're going to have to, like, I don't know, be the next billionaire or whatever and so forth. Sometimes your purpose is just the fact that you're here, and you being here makes a place brighter. But it's like knowing that alone is enough to kind of give you this that kind of gift. Because I think people are in this constant searches of like, I need to have meaning in my life, when it's like you shouldn't have to look for meaning, just exist, enjoy it, and don't worry so much about trying to label things, saying you have to do this, do that. Just enjoy the moment. I think there's a lot of pressure on people to be a certain way, to have a certain thing, when it's like, does that really matter as well? Probably not.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just this. Yeah.
I really think that our negative emotions are a call to action, and I think that if somebody is struggling because they feel like they should have purpose, maybe they should evaluate those things that some people are drawn to activism, or some people are drawn to community work, some people are drawn to whatever it might be. Jason Crow is drawn to creating a new blockchain, but there are things that the world projects, or that we project into the world, that we wish that weren't here, that we don't like, or that, and I think that if somebody has a strong a negative reaction to something, I think that is showing them a path forward, you know, to have some meaning in their life, you know. And it's interesting to me too, because I agree with you. I think some people are just here to be themselves, to, you know, just be in their communities, be in their families, and like you said, like smile for the rest of us, you know.
I mean, my kind of perception of the world is the fact that we're pretty much the universe, and the universe had said to myself, okay, I'm gonna break myself apart into a multitude of people, colors, races, ethnic, whatever, and try to find myself. So everyone's expressing their self. The universe is expressing itself through each and every single individual, just trying to make sense of all this. You know, so as you said, sometimes the purpose can just be just to observe your life and just let it go by. So you don't have to have this grand meaning to things. Just be.
My best friend, she says that her purpose is to raise the next generation and to observe. That's what she's here for. And I think that is so beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great purpose.
Yeah.
Children are future, children like curses, and have that potential and that thing that we forget, that magic. You know, and I do feel for children with right now with what's happening in the world, but as much as there is like negativity, there's a lot of love as well. So.
I had an amazing conversation with my 8-year-old just earlier, right before we got started. He had an epiphany, and he was like, oh my gosh, like my mind is it's like somebody poked a hole in me, and now all the information of the universe is just going into me. And I said, like this, you had a download. And he goes, yeah, like a video game upgrade. And he was so excited. And then immediately after that, he started talking about something about himself. Like he realized, like, oh, I'm not being shy right now, and I don't like to be when I'm shy. So he started talking about that. Like he realized that this was the flow state, and he could problem solve in real time. It was amazing.
See, that's what we forget. We rush to grow up. We think, you know, we want to be adults, but you realize, no, the magic is when you're a child. You know, you see world in a different way, you know, and we forget that. And I think the society around us, the media, whatever, does a great job in making you feel like you're insignificant, you know, so you're just a number, a statistic, and it dampens that potential in people. That's why I think having the right people around you to nourish the children can literally create, a greater future.
And actually that exact thing came up too, because I was explaining to him that, because he said he, in that same flow state, said something about how he's going to be a grown-up someday. And I said, how do you feel about that? And he said, it kind of makes me feel icky. And I said, well, is that because you love being a kid? And he was like, yeah. And I said, did you know that a lot of grown-ups forgot how to be a kid? And that's why there's such a grown-up. And he's like, but that's really sad. And I said, but you know what? I'm learning. I forgot. And now I'm learning how to be a kid again. And he was like, oh, like he was so sorry for me. It was really sweet. And I said, so now that I'm learning how to be a kid again, I can help you to not forget how to be a kid when you're growing up. And he was like, oh yeah, cool.
No, this, amazing. I mean, I think to be a child is to just see the world as something greater than it is, and have that kind of that hope, and you know, encourage your imagination to do the things that you're not afraid to do in it.
Yeah, like again, infinite possibilities.
That's it. You know, a child doesn't worry when it's born. It's out and about, running around, jumping around. He knows he'll be fine. You know, but it's the parents or the people around them that start saying, don't do this, don't do that, and slowly cotton ball that child and take away its potential. I mean, it doesn't mean you go and let your kids run amok every day, but there's a fine line of how to do it, basically. And
I'm really struggling walking that line, like because in order, you know, I try to explain to them, like, in order to keep you safe, like, I need to trust that you're going to listen to my directions, you know. If we're hiking in the woods and I see a cliff, I need to know that when I say stop, wait for me, that you're going to stop and wait for me to catch up to you so that we can find a good path, you know? And I use that example with them because they know like what could happen if they take a wrong step when they're hiking, you know? And they don't like to listen to directions.
Yeah.
And so
Well, that's
I mean, I know that I kind of present it to them in a heavy way, but it is heavy. Like, you know, my number one job as a mother is to protect you, but I can't be overbearing. So I need to be able to trust you when I give you directions that you're going to follow them. And then that way, with that trust, I can give you freedom, you know?
yeah.
So that's really the struggle that we're having in the household right now.
Well, it's a learning curve for both of you guys, isn't it? So it's that's what part of the journey is. Like having and raising a child, you're not given a blueprint or a manual, aren't you? It's learning it as it goes along. So yeah, it's just finding the fine line, which can be tricky indeed. But I'm sure they'll listen because they know if they do job, if what will happen in it. So yeah, I think kids just like to be free. But yeah, it's just again a healthy way of educating them that these are the right things to do and these are wrong things to do, and the consequences of what may or may not happen, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And without sort of bringing them that fear into them as well, sort of thing, just to balance the both.
Yeah, I don't want them to be, they're so unafraid right now. And I don't want them to become afraid, you know. But let's be rational, let's be logical, let's use our minds, you know. Yeah. Talk to me about a little bit more about your approach with blending kind of self-improve or self-development with physical development, you know.
I mean, let's look at the main thing. Like most people will join a gym because they're not happy with where they look. So it's a case of like, oh, I'm not in good shape. I don't like the way I look in clothes. I'm carrying too much weight and so forth. So it's like, okay, what was causing the root behind that? What produced those limiting beliefs within you about your look? And so one thing I was having my clients is that, okay, we're going to get to this position where you're X amount of body fat or weight, whatever you want to be. But even when you get there, you're still going to accept it. You know, it's not going to be good enough for you. So it's uncovering what basically gave them the limited beliefs in the first place and accepting where they are first. They're moving forward. Because I knew, for example, that I once weighed, what was it, 270 pounds, and it massively affected my confidence. And I knew all this stuff that confidence was about the energy you gave off and not necessarily the look. You know, it's how you held yourself and what you gave out to the world. But it still affected me looking the way I did. And it was only when I was able to drop down to 140 pounds, I believe it is, that I felt confident. I shouldn't have had to gone through that process to feel the confidence, but it was the vessel for me to do so. But I needed to go through that to learn to appreciate myself and the confidence. So yeah, it's like people, it can become very kind of impulsive, isn't it, to go to the gym because you don't think you're good enough. So we get caught up in like the bodybuilding world, for example. It's never good enough. And you look at people, and I'm kind of in that world now where I'm moving from a background of like strength training to build now, and you're always picking at yourself and you're thinking it's never good enough. So my job is always to ask my clients, what's causing those limiting beliefs in the background? Why don't you think you're good enough? And it's a case of going back to, as we said, childhood. What happened to us then that gave us these perceptions of reality and these limiting beliefs on us? So again, everything that we are stems from our childhood. So I think it's very important for, not everyone should be having kids, you know, and it's a very finite process. And as much as I believe I'd be the best father in the world, I'd still make mistakes as well. But it's finding the right balance. So yeah, in a nutshell, the physical side of it, it's incorporating the fact that, okay, let's get you looking great or performing well, whatever you want. But it's also having you in a position where you understand what's stopping you from moving forward in life, whatever limiting beliefs you had, and how that affects your soul as much as your physical body. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder, how many people do you come across that are like very resistant to that approach? Do you know, some people don't like to look at themselves, you know?
Yeah, this is it. Self-development itself is a very tough thing to do, you know, because it's very easy for us to play the victim card, to blame other people. But then to take control of your reality and then start to understand that some shape, way, or form you do dictate what happens in your life. It's a big thing for people to do. So it is not for everyone. So sometimes, when they say ignorance is bliss, it's true. But I have to admit, like, I'm lucky enough over the years, I've never really come across too many clients like that are resistant. And even the ones that were, it was a case of, okay, you understand them and give them what they want, because at the end of the day as well, you can't force what you may believe right on people, because this is what works for me. But if I was to take someone on board and start unraveling their shadows, it could create a worse situation. So this is just about understanding the individual. Some people don't want to go down that rabbit hole, and it's fine. And at the end of the day, my job is to give them what they want. Not necessarily what they, and then what they need, it comes with it as well. But it's all a case of what they want first. Someone comes to me and says, "I want a six-pack for summer." Then it's like, cool, just give you a six-pack. That's it. So some people don't want the rest. Yeah.
It's upstairs, little boy.
What do you have there?
Sissy lent me her heater because my feet was cold. So cute. He just wants gum. Can I have some gum?
Yeah. No, so I guess back to this, it's just like, not everyone wants that approach, and it's just understanding the individual that comes to you.
Yeah.
A large amount of my clients don't go down that route, which is fine, because everyone's going to have their perception of the world around them, and what may work for me may not work for someone else. So it's about understanding their language and how they look at the world around them, and trying to adapt how I coach them through their eyes, not necessarily my eyes. So that's what I'll try to do as a coach.
I've found that I'm able to get people to open up to me a little bit more if I can have them start asking themselves how it is that they sabotage themselves, And you don't have to offer any type of spirituality, or, there's no shaming or judgment or anything like that. It's just, inviting them to just like think about that a little bit, and then they start coming up with their own answers, because that at least is unavoidable. Like, you can't not observe your own physical actions,
Yeah, you want to leave an open question, basically, so they go away thinking, okay, they'll ask themselves these questions. That's what I always try to do with coaching. It's never the case of like, oh, this is what you should be doing. It's like, okay, what if you did this, that? And it's like, okay, then the answer comes to them themselves. Because at the end of the day, my advice may not necessarily be the right advice. But if it comes from within themselves, like, okay, this is the path I need to take.
Yeah. And I don't ever want to give advice. I used to have so much hubris, and now I don't. I just ask a lot of questions, and just talk to them, tell them about, my perspective about, like they might say something that reminds me of something, or, a piece of information that maybe I think might be helpful to them. And I ask them questions. And it's amazing how much people really know about themselves when they're prompted.
Well, this is it. When I mean my coaching, I'll always be like, so this is my perception on your situation. If I was in your shoes, this is what I would do. But then you'd always end the dialogue with, ultimately, you know what's best for yourself, and this is just my sort of perception. So you give ownership back to them, and it's not you giving the advice and saying, this is how I'd do it if I was in your shoes, but you know what's best for you, because I've not walked a day in your shoes, basically. So it's giving it back to them, because most people don't want to be told what to do, and
especially me. Yeah, I'm guilty.
So humble sort of dialogue, basically.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to understand people and how they communicate as well. So that's it.
Speaking the same language, making sure. Yeah, that was always a huge, that was a realization I had like early days of doing hair. If my client and I are not speaking the same language, the lingo isn't the same. I'm speaking hairdresser and she's speaking client, there's no no way to communicate directly. Go ahead.
That's one of the bases of NLP, for example. Like some people are going to be very kinesthetic individuals, some are very auditory, some are very visual. So I'm a very kinesthetic person. So if I was in the setting of like a gym for me, it's like, how does an exercise feel to me? But if someone said to me, how does that look? They're not on my wavelength, but they need to respond back to me with the kinesthetic question. So it's understanding whatever situation is, whatever situation you're in, the context, the conversation, what is the individual? Is it auditory, visual, or kinesthetic? And then once you can understand that, you can create a wavelength and you're on each other's, same frequency.
Yep, exactly. And yeah, neurolinguistics is so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And I can see, oh my gosh, once you, because I had this book, the name is escaping me. Do you know it? It's kind of like a mottled purple background and it has a rainbow going across the front of it. Do you know you don't know which one?
No.
Okay. It was actually like a series of studies and workshops, but transcribed. It was pretty, I can't remember the name. But now that I'm aware of what it is and how, how to utilize it and the proper structure and protocol for it, I see it being used in the most evil ways. Everywhere I look, I'm like, this is something that you could use for the benefit of humanity, and instead it's just used to take advantage of people. It's really disgusting.
Well, this is the whole thing about the self-development world. Many organizations will use a negative form of LP to buy people into buying further courses and attending lectures. I mean, at the end of the day, can we say it's negative? Like, at the end of the day, they're businesses, they're trying to make money, but are the intentions pure? I don't know. If you're trying to, my perception, I'd say probably not, because you're trying to coerce people coming back into buying into you, and I think that gives a scarcity mindset. This is why I don't like the whole idea of like this whole guruship of, or people that, you shouldn't have to have a guru, or you shouldn't have to follow an individual. You should just rely on yourself. So I've seen context of that where you use negative NLP to rope you into basically buying further things, or just making you feel insignificant. Just the way they speak and stuff. I mean, there's a famous book called The Game, which basically uses NLP to manipulate women into bed. So there's another form of it. There you go. So
but this is why, like back in ancient Greece, university was free, right? But and you could attend any classes you want. The one class, the one lecture hall that you could not attend, you had to be invited, was the philosophy, because they understood like you have to get your heart and your mind right before you can learn these things. Otherwise you're going to create hell for humanity.
Yeah, definitely. And it is a slippery slope as well. Like even me, like there's so much. I'm one of those people that if I'm interested in something, I want to know everything about it. So I went very, very deep down the rabbit hole. And I remember in 2006, I had a conflict of interest in my thoughts. I questioned reality. Like I started to think of like, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Try to make sense of everything. And you just like, I was everywhere. But then I was wise enough to put myself out of the situation. But understanding too much or reading too much into this can also have its detriment as well. So it's about finding a healthy balance between that as well. So again, sometimes ignorance is bliss, and often knowing certain things about reality in your life can be a bit of a bummer as well. But hey.
I've begun to look at those things, that I have a strong aversion to, that I realize about the world. I've begun to look at those things as practice. When I learn a new piece of information that, gives me that, like my son earlier saying the thought of growing up made him feel icky. There's certain things that you learn that make you feel icky, and I've learned to use those as practice to check myself and also check my relationship with reality, so that, I don't want anybody to get me wrong, because I really do love Buddhist philosophy. But one thing that I disagree with, I guess, is this idea of getting, letting go of attachment and that type of a thing, because I think that attachment is part of being human. In Bootsy's group, we talk about, ascending the levels of the map of consciousness, but I don't want to be enlightened. I want to be in human emotion. I don't want to be way down here where I'm living, from a primal play, or place, because that's not an effective human being. I want to be in those higher realms of love and acceptance and neutrality. And the idea of letting go of attachment, or not the atrocities of the world not having an effect on you, almost like is an apathetic kind of place, and that isn't apathy is, I think, on level 4 on that map of consciousness. It's down there,
But
so
it's
that's
also
it's a balancing act.
Yeah, it's also the case of like the very notion of trying to lose attachment is attachment. This is the one thing that a lot of the Western world doesn't look into. They will read a Zen quote or a Buddhist thing, but they realize that that's the surface level. There's a deeper meaning behind the koan and the metaphor behind it. But they don't examine that. They see it as a face value thing. Like the same conversation I had with someone today about they wanted to be always in a state of bliss. But I'm like, what's wrong with the other side of what you try to run from? Like, how could you know one without the other? And even this notion of trying to seek enlightenment, everyone is already enlightened. What does it mean to be enlightened?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to be completely happy all the time? That would be a bit boring. This is it there. It's like, and it's a case of like, what's wrong with attachment? Like, it's fine to be attached for it. And as long as you can have everything you want in life if you're not attached to the outcome. That's how it's all reality. So what people will perceive as attachment is like, if I wasn't attaining a certain job or a relationship or whatever I wanted, then people would change as individuals and they will start resenting people who have that. And as a core person, they've changed at their core. And I think that's attachment in my eyes. Whereas attachment is just being free of it. It's just being whatever happens, happens. That's it. Everything's a part of life. Like, yes, there's loads of kind of beauty out there, but there's a lot of negativity as well happening at the same time. But that's just the way the things work. Let's get a picture of a picture of a flower. It looks beautiful, but then you get a magnifying glass, you look deeper, it's fractured apart into little dots, and you go deeper, it's more fractured dots and chaos. But from a bigger picture, everything's perfect, and that's reality itself. Mm-hmm. So on a grander scale, these things have to occur for this to happen.
Right.
I mean, it'd be pretty boring if everyone was always happy and it really is kind of a utopian society, like Star Trek, I guess. But everyone would be a bit dull and boring. You wouldn't, you're missing out on so many layers of emotions.
Yeah.
Like I know, like the pain I went through, my sadness gave me love.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't have that pain, I wouldn't know what love was. So you need to have that understanding of like non-duality, that ultimately everything is what it is. Until you give it its meaning, it doesn't have a meaning. So it's perception basically. I'm off on one there, but yeah.
Now, it's hard when you're a parent to balance all of that, because you realize that like things could happen to your, like our like animal instinct is always protection, and you realize there's a million different ways that things could happen to your offspring. But then you also realize, well, that's not a healthy way to live, so you have to find a balance there. And I think that's my views on attachment have really developed out of that, like how to balance, being enlightened. We're all enlightened, but also more primal instincts that you have as a human being, and that are a blessing for us to have. Being human is amazing, all parts of it, all of everything, the whole spectrum, whether we view it to be good or bad, it's amazing.
We're all going to be a sum of our experiences and what happens to us, and without those we wouldn't be us. Again, if we were all a bunch of happy people, then it'd be a bit boring. It's like looking at your reflection every day, and all these events that happen to us are it's part of our journey. Again, what is enlightenment? People search for this enlightenment and then they think they're better and they're some sort of higher being. It's like, what makes you better than me, sort of thing. It's a level playing field, isn't it? Like some people want to be in a position where they decide to not get married or have kids or not have a partner or not have sex, for example, and they think that's enlightenment to be that way. Cool, but I personally think you're missing out on a chunk of your journey. Then it's almost a fair not wanting to experience that. But if people want to do that, that's perfectly fine.
It's
each to their
almost
own.
like rejecting human, being human.
That's it. Yeah, the basic instincts. And like, I mean, life itself is one big act of faith anyway. The fact that we're here should tell you enough that something grand is behind us. But people don't think like that. They will, just the fact that you're here is taking a leap of faith for it to happen. So no, enlightenment's an interesting topic. Yeah, definitely. It's I like that notion for a very long time, because when I realized that, what does enlightenment mean for me? What am I searching for? Because then once you get it, then what? So let's say we are like, what you're enlightened today, then what's next then? You get pretty bored in it.
My current perception of enlightenment, like the highest level of being, I guess, to me is just a connection with my higher self. I cannot imagine anything higher than that, and I don't want to.
But this is it though, that connection from higher self is not separate from you. It's already within you. You are it, basically.
Exactly.
So it's
yeah.
like
having the realization that there is no aha moment,
no, that's it.
maybe there's, for me, there was the moment of actually introducing myself to my higher self and getting a sense of a return reply, that was an aha moment. But other than that, it's not like, oh, all of the answers of the universe are suddenly downloaded into me and I'm omniscient. It's not
But this is the thing that people do. The very thing they search for, they forget it's themselves already. There was a very famous Sufi poet, Rumi, once said, "Everywhere I go, I see myself." We are that. The very thing we seek is us. But it's this constant thing for it that it's got to be this external thing. Like happiness is outside of me, love is outside of me, wealth is outside of me. It's like, believe it, then you'll see it. Don't see it, then believe it.
Yeah, or God is outside of me.
Yeah.
All of the religions that I see in the world, with the exception of a few, it's look to an outside source, look to an outside power, and trust that. Not to trust yourself or your connection with that source, but to trust that source outside of you. And it's so detrimental when, like you said, it's already we are God, all of us. It's already inside us.
In essence, everyone is God. We're all grand, organized designers of our life.
Mm-hmm.
So we're that. It's not this thing outside of you that it's. I respect people who have these religious views in life, but from what I've seen, it's a case of living in fear that if I don't abide by these certain rules, that this supreme being is going to do harm to me or judge me. And I think if that was your God, why would you want to give him so much love if he was so easy to just it's not an attitude I believe that worked for me. So for me, like that kind of supreme level is being in a state of love and elation, and again, it's accessible so easily to do that. You don't have to get the external to get it. It's already within you, but it's going through the process of how do I access it within me. So knowing that you already are it. How am I trying to say this? Like is a tree wood, or does the wave call itself the ocean? It just is that, isn't it? It's the same thing with us. We just be us, and we already are that thing, and we need to stop searching. It's already us here right now doing this, but it's again back to this whole thing that we believe that it's a separate entity from us. I think enlightenment, to sum it up, is to say that the very thing that we search for is us. That's it. And this, whatever you want to call it, this life, this dimension, is just our way of trying to make sense of that, I guess.
How Bootsy says we are not a drop in the ocean, we're the ocean in a drop.
The ocean itself. Yeah, that's it.
We're the ocean itself in a drop.
And people forget that. We are the whole. We're one big consciousness. Expressing itself in its multitude way. We're all connected to each other in this, call it the ether, or something binds us together that we can't see, but we're all that. But again, people want to create divisions and separate themselves, and the more we kind of label ourselves, the more we pull away from that connection. We box ourselves in. And no one even asked that question, who are they and what are they really? It's a case of, no, they label themselves with, this is who I am, this is what I do. But it's like, but that's what you're doing on this journey. But who are you really? And no one can really answer that question.
Yeah, I'm getting a little teary-eyed because I think of, huh?
Is it cold outside? That's why.
No, I think, one of the things that has really driven me and given me like a determination of purpose in my life is the fact that I see people all around me who don't understand what their value is. They don't understand that they themselves as individual, oceans in a drop, like have infinite possibilities of what they could do. They have this infinite amount of potential and therefore power within them that they could be using to contribute the highest level of experience back to the collective, and wasted potential is one thing that I have a hard time with. It like I said, it makes me teary-eyed.
No, I was once on that process where I felt like I could save people, and show them this kind of path or whatever, and make them realize they're powerful, how beautiful they are, because it made me upset to see people who I looked at who had so much gifts and so much potential just belittle themselves. But at the end of the day, we can't do nothing about that. And us taking upon that pain is going to affect us. And it's a case of us not being like, we got to detach ourselves from that. And another day is like, all we got to do is focus on ourselves and then light the way and facilitate and open doors. But it's up for people to step through. Because who's to say that we trying to wake someone up or show them a path is the best thing for them? So from an outsider's point of view, it's always easy to look at someone and say, oh, you can be doing so much more better, but we don't know the background story as well, or why they're doing it. I mean, I thought I was a wasted potential, and sometimes I still think I am. But and then my issue in life was the people giving me love and praise because I never had that in myself. And even to this day, I still get shy sometimes when someone gives me a compliment, and says something, but that's going to always be part of me. Like, I know my strength, I know the gifts I have, but I'm not going to go around flaunting it and mouthing about it. I'll keep it humble to myself about it, and the right people will come. But you're right. Like, all we can do as individuals is just, the more we focus on ourselves, the more we nourish our soul, the more we can light the way. And whoever's meant to come our way will cross paths.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, ignorance is bliss. Like, I know personally, going through everything I did, understanding the things I do, it did affect me negatively as well. It did question my reality, and it kind of took me down some deep holes to the point where I actually wanted to end my life a couple of times, So this whole understanding self is great on one side, but it can also be detrimental on another. So I think it takes someone who's very open-minded and open to be criticized and open to question yourself to go further. But again, it doesn't mean me or you are better than the next person.
No.
It's all one level playing field. Yeah. Because everything ultimately is there. Everyone's reliving their reality through their perception. And that's what life is, perception. So yeah, it's hard to see people wasting what you feel is a potential, but again, we don't know the backstory to it as well.
Yeah. Well, now I've been able to process that really visceral reaction to that situation, but I think I've kind of transmuted it, because now when I see like wasted potential or forgotten potential or something like that, I wonder to myself, I wonder what their superpower is. I wonder, instead of feeling sad or, something like that, it just makes me curious. Like, what magic does that person have hiding inside of them?
Because what if it was also a case of in the past where you got upset at seeing people with that? Was that something you were seeing within them that you were acknowledging within yourself as well? Like, what if part of you felt you had this potential as well, but you were trying to express it, and then seeing other people with that reminded something within you that you were not processing or trying to move forward with?
Definitely, because when I would have that strong reaction to it was a while ago. It was in my 20s, and actually I can tell you, like, the biggest example that comes to mind when I think of it is we have Sturgis motorcycle rally. It's like this world famous motorcycle rally. It's about 30 miles away from where I live. And like the population of this state doubles during that time. You know, we have so many people coming, and you go and it's just like wild debauchery everywhere, you know? But I remember, but we used to go up to this place called the Full Throttle because they would have free punk rock shows. And I was a punk rocker. So we would go up there. And the last time that we went, I saw women everywhere, like older women, you know, in their 60s, like bare chested, falling down drunk. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like, ooh, this doesn't feel good to me at all. And then on the way back, going through the parking lot there, you know, to go home, there were people having sex like right next to our car. And I was like, oh, this place is not for me. I don't like any of this, you know? But it was like seeing these women devalue themselves that really, that's what I had that reaction to. So, but now, you know, and back then I wasn't on purpose. Actually, I think I was you know, might have been one of the catalysts to help me find what my purpose was actually, because very shortly after that, I went on a very straight and narrow track on, you know, on my purpose. So
there you go. So maybe those moments, those events were the universe saying, okay, this is what you need to see for you to like remember who you are basically within. Because ultimately as well, these women doing what they were and the couple having the sex, whatever, again, we don't know what happened to them growing up. What was their backstory? Why are they doing that? What if they just purely enjoy that? And so we're almost like, you're not judging people, but it's like, just let them be, you know?
That's always been my attitude, like live and let live. But what hurt me was how these people, not just the women but the men too, how these people feel inside about themselves. That's what hurt to me, because I can feel that, you know.
But it's also, I mean, I'll play devil's advocate here. It's like everyone's gonna judge reality and people according to their values and what they place on them, so how they see perception. So let's say I love to go to the gym, and then I see people who are not caring about their health and fat, but for me that's, oh my god, but for them they're happy, you know. So it's like cool, you know. And again, it's like, I know you're saying you can feel what they feel with themselves, but at the same time it's like, can we really feel that as well? Yeah. So it's like
I think it's run through the processes of our own filter.
Like I see a lot of things and I'm like, cool, just smile it off, because me trying to understand that and make sense of it, is it going to serve me? Maybe not, maybe it is. But yeah, I just kind of like, I used to be very much about trying to tell everyone about what I knew and wake people up, as I say, whatever that means. But now it's like, let people do their thing. What works for me works for me. Like one of my greatest gifts is trust in the world. You know, like when the moments when I had to face my mortality, I knew I'd be okay. You know, and I always seem to just let the universe do its thing and go with its flow. I can't coach that in someone, because that's a part of me. That's what makes me who I am. You know, so it's like there are elements to that. It's like you've got to just do what you can, but then whatever other people have, that's their way as well. I went off topic there. Yeah.
Well, and it's like you said earlier, you know, then at least you're a living example.
That's it. And in some ways right now, you doing what you are, whether it's this podcast, your other ventures, it's your way of trying to help people. The right people will come across your material, your things, and they will have that potential ignited in them. So this is the catalyst. So you may not be able to give it to the whole world, but the right people will. Like everything we're talking about right now, it's not going to resonate with everyone, but someone will think, okay, you know what? They're talking something that, what is he talking about? What does that mean? Let me question it, you know, and that will ignite that spark with them to search more. So in an essence, we are igniting people's gifts and potentials, just not the whole world, isn't it? The right people.
Yeah,
resonate with us.
That's one of the reasons why I love doing this podcast. Like, I don't make any money from this, you know. I'm not doing it for other motives other than I feel like if this is stuff that's helpful for me, there's got to be other people out there, and
Yeah.
if the right people come across it and it does what it needs to do for them, then that is a win. And in the meantime, I'm learning and growing, and it's beautiful, you know.
And same thing for me, like, you know, like to whoever listens to this right now, just know that I'm super nervous doing this right now. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm doing the best I can, and hopefully you do take away something from it, from my nonsense. But yeah, it's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we will always be growing, and you'll see over time, you know, the podcast will develop further and further to where it'll be more of a natural thing. But yeah, so anyone listening, I'm super nervous. But yeah.
No, I have you done podcasts before?
No, so
This is your first one?
I've done one in the past, but even then that was like more fitness oriented. But for most people's reference, I'm very kind of not introverted. I'm a mix of both, but I do keep to myself quite a lot, to the point where it was only the last year that people saw my face on social media when I'd be posting and stuff on blogs for the last 15 years. Again, those are my limiting beliefs. I felt like I wasn't the most academically smart person, so I didn't do well in school. I was just a hard worker, you know, so I was more good with my hands and just effort. And I always felt I had a speech issue, like I couldn't read or write properly. And so even right now I'm talking and it's fine. Now it feels comfortable to speak how I am. And I think this is just me. But in the past, like even the thought, if someone said to me, hey, do you want to do a podcast? I'd be like, no, you know. And then it came to the point where I was like, just be you, you know. And if you stutter, if you slip up with words and you can't pronounce something, so what? That's who I am, in it. And so it's about being authentic. So, but yeah, in a nutshell, I generally like to keep to myself, partly because I don't seek fame or glory, but that is a lie. Like I do what I do, but it is nice when people give you praise for it. But I want to be in the background, really. But at the same time, I'm like, if I'm in the background, I'm wasting my potential as well. So just trying to find that balance. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not comfortable with praise, but I appreciate so much just affirmation. You know, I've realized that, like with the podcast, I'm really proud of the podcast. I'm so amazed at all of the people that I've gotten to speak with, you know, but it's not, you know, when people say stuff, I'm still uncomfortable with praise, but it's just affirmation. You know, when somebody relates to the podcast the way that I do, I'm like, oh yeah, that feels good, you know. Yeah, it's interesting trying to dissect all of your emotions as they come up, you know, and I try not to do it too much because it can be maddening, you know, but every once in a while you feel a feeling and you're like, what is this? I need to sit in this for a minute and figure out what this feeling is.
Yeah. I mean, I've had multiple instances over the last 20 years where I was offered a chapter in a book or to do public speaking. You know, I had a business coach and we were set to do a talk on TEDx about strength of will, but each instance I just bottled it because I just didn't have that belief in myself. Because whenever you see people on stage or do these things, it almost like it flows. But then it hit me that they had to start somewhere as well. You know, one of my good friends who was actually featured on one of Owen's podcasts, actually, he said the same thing to me. Is like, just start somewhere. Because when I look at his videos to where he is now, yeah, the first few were like all over the place. Now it just flows, you know, so it's a process. So I guess this is what this is about now as well. It's just doing more and then slowly crafting it, and then eventually it will be fluid. So
and it's amazing that as you're in the process of it, whether that's, you know, just getting comfortable with like speaking, you know, publicly or whatever it is, it's amazing how that part of yourself evolves into its own thing. Because the podcasts today are, in my view, a lot different. Even though back, you know, when I started it, I was, you know, still trying to be authentic and all of that. But same thing, I was nervous and I didn't know if I even was interesting or had interesting ideas or knew how to find interesting guests, and just a lot of insecurity because it was brand new. But over time, it's not something that I've really put effort into, but it's just like a cultivation of confidence slowly over time. You know, the same that you do with any like physical endeavor. The more you do it, the more it becomes automatic.
Yeah.
And I found it's the exact same way communicating with people.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I realized that what stopped me from moving forward in the early days of this kind of journey for me was the fact that when I did do something like a talk or a post on a platform like social media, people close to me would belittle that post because they couldn't understand it, you know. And like I said, I wasn't a very academic individual, and these people in my life were very academically successful. So their perception of success was academic achievement, having a good job, and all that stuff. And then here's me talking about philosophy and throwing out certain things that are quite esoteric, and they're like, "Yeah, but how do you understand that? Where'd you get that from? You know, you're stupid because you can't even, pass exams and so forth." So
They
having
would
people close to me,
they would
yeah,
say that, or you would
yeah,
interpret it that way.
I interpreted it that way, but then I
Mhm.
also down the line had a few of them be honest with me one day and say, "Look, sorry, this is what we thought about you, and we were wrong." And so it was almost as if like my thoughts were coming to fruition. Now you could say I created a self-fulfilling prophecy with that. Who knows? But so it was instances with that because like the things we kind of will talk about 10, 15 years ago, like social media was just growing. It wasn't about this. It was more about your friends and connecting and people throwing out this sort of thing wasn't as apparent as it is now. Um, so when I do posts, I think, am I talking nonsense? Because you don't meet many people speaking like that. So I thought I was wrong. So that put me back into a box. And it was only slowly over the years when you start to meet people who are like that, you're like, aha, here you go. Look, here's people speaking my language. So I'm not just a load of lunatic talking about, I don't know, creation and how you can take, transform your life into what you want and so forth and all this other nonsense. But yeah, so it was that for me was what that it was. I believe I always had the trust to do it, but it was the fact that forces outside of me were pushing me down, and I gave into that basically, and then my own sort of limiting beliefs. But now it's like, you know what? This is who I am. This is what I say. It'll come across the right person and whatever, And if someone doesn't like it, cool. Because I learned a long time ago that no matter what you do, 50% of people will love you for it, 50 will hate you. That's because their own limiting beliefs and their own sort of insecurity. So just be you. As long as you're not harming anyone, by all means, that's how I see it now. So I'm definitely in the best position now to do something with whatever I have within me.
Yeah, and like Derek Bro says, you are beautiful, you are powerful, and you are free. So
Yeah,
get at it.
yeah, that's it. Get out
Get
your own
at
way, basically, and just
yeah,
do it. Yeah,
just get at it. Yep.
I know.
Oh man. So there was one other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and it was in one of the posts.
To you, a direct message, or was it in the group? I
No,
can't
no,
remember.
no. It was in the conversation. Oh gosh, I'll find it. I'll figure it out. But yeah, coherence, that's another good topic right there.
Yeah, very interesting topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
how would
someone
you
asked me today,
go ahead?
how do I create coherence? And I was like, good question, because I don't know.
Explain coherence.
So coherence is obviously having a unity between your thoughts and your heart. Your heart has a frequency 5,000 times, if I'm correct there, stronger than your brain. And when people, like I always say, like your heart knows how to get you from A to B, it'll get you there. But the mind is very logical. So the mind will think in a linear sort of thing. Let's say like, I want to get from A to B, or create like a linear path. But the heart will be like, I'm going to get you to B, but it's not going to be a straight thing. It'll be up and down, round and round, but you'll get there. And then when you can have a union between both the mind and the heart saying, okay, the brain knows it's going to be up and down, left and right, but we'll get there. It's a trust and going with it. So I think if I can sum it up, it's basically a union between both heart and mind, where basically whatever you desire comes to fruition, and having that kind of calmness within yourself. So someone asked me today how I did it. And when I first sort of like, for me, heart and mind coherence is about trust. So when I didn't know it was that when I had two moments in my life where trust was like very profound for me. Like, so many of your listeners there probably don't know this, you wouldn't actually know this, but so when I was 21, I was given 2 days to live. I was crossing the road and I got hit by a bus, and I had a fractured skull and a brain hemorrhage. So I remember the neurosurgeon telling my father that I had 48 hours. And when I heard that, I was like, I'll be fine. And three days later on, he's standing in front of my bed saying to my father, I don't know how your son's alive. And I just smiled because I said, I knew it'd be okay. So in that moment, there was a sense of trust, of detaching myself. There's no worry and doubt. And I walked out. And then years went on. I was 26. I was diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I went through a year of chemo. So when the doctor told me what had happened, I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. Again, because it was a sense of trust. So that for me was my kind of first intro into that coherence. Because for me, mind and heart coherence is about trusting my heart to get me from A to B. You know, I knew that the chemo wouldn't be straightforward. It would be, it would have its moments. It would be tough, but I knew I'd get to be, so that's what I would take away is a coherence of it. It's just a sense of having trust. Many people use it for different things, like meditations to like help with their anxiety, stress. I used to use it in meditation in the early days. So my way of doing it was to kind of lay in bed and place my palm on my heart and center my awareness there. And I'd imagine like sort of just slowing my breathing down so my body felt it was safe. And then I'd imagine like an energy field around my heart, and it would expand or outside my heart, my body, and then my house and the world around me. And I was kind of enveloped in this elation, you call it, or love. And for me, in my eye, it was like a purple pinkish energy. And it was then I kind of set a intention, because I'm in flow, I guess. I'm in perfect union between my thoughts and my emotions. So that was an instance where I used kind of coherence in that. But I don't know if I use it daily. Maybe I do, but it's just subconsciously, but I don't actively do it.
I wonder.
If you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I wonder if you've maybe just integrated it into your being, and so it doesn't have to take conscious effort.
Because I was never one for meditation as a person. Like one of my favorite philosophers, Anna Watts, had a good talk about that. Like, what was the point of meditation? Why do we do it? Why do we seek to silence our thoughts? Because I guess in the world we live now, there is a lot of dialogue, but that wasn't like that hundreds of years ago. We didn't have these stimuluses outside of us that affected our psyche. So meditation then probably didn't exist. It was just a state of, as you were saying, enlightenment, seeking this kind of just bliss. You just went with it. So I never used it as a tool that people use it for, where in the sense of like trying to quiet my thoughts or manifestations. Meditation for me was just a self-dialogue every night. Like, how are you? How was your day? Why did you get upset? And then go to bed and the answers will come in the morning. So that was my full meditation. So yeah, in a nutshell, I mean, for me, coherence is a great topic, but I wouldn't know how I do it, if that's the question is. So maybe you're right, it's just a part of me.
Yeah, like you were saying, your trust in the universe has always just been part of you. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I'm a very kinesthetic person in that respect. Like, so I'll go by my heart anyway. Sometimes it's not the best thing to do, but yeah, it's you got to kind of I think in the early days, like, again, someone asked me today, was like, how did you change that dialogue in your mind when your heart would say yes, but your brain would say no? And I said, like, it was a conscious effort for me to observe my thoughts quite a lot and change the words I use, from using stuff like if, I can't, when, it was a case of like words that were confirming things like I will, I can. So it was a conscious effort to me observe my thoughts. I don't think most people have the time to do that, but me being the kind of introverted person I am, I have that time. But it's yeah, so it's that was it for me. So I think that's where I kind of gained that coherence between my mind and my brain, where I was consciously able to observe what I was thinking, and I was always aware of my thoughts, basically. And then it almost kind of connected. Because when it comes to, like, let's say if we look at manifestation, I don't really desire much external things. So I don't set these intentions and goals of like owning X and that or whatever, because I don't think like that. But then I've also seen instances where the things that did matter to me, how they were doubts in my brain, but my heart would be like, fine. So I used, again, the way of sort of like understanding my thoughts to bring that coherence together. But yeah, that's an interesting topic. It's something I haven't looked into for a long time.
Yeah. I like to sit with things that confuse me. And coherence is definitely one of those things that confuses me. But, I was thinking about it while you were talking in terms of these tarot readings. And, I think part of that, I wonder if, because when the client is telling me I would like to use this reading today for this, or I would just like a general reading or whatever it is, I'm holding that deck and I'm just thinking about like, what is the proper intention to put it, for what they want, what's the proper intention? And I think that in that moment, that's what I'm doing, is creating coherence.
Yeah. So there you go. There's your coherence there.
Mm-hmm.
Because from what I know, for me, it was a case of when you're in absolute flow and trust. Like there's zero sort of doubt when you come out of it that whatever you've set the intention for isn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what coherence is. And then again, when someone said to me today that they wanted to be always in a state of coherence, I was like, great, but then what are you again hiding from? Why do you want to be in a state of coherence all the time?
Mm-hmm.
You're missing out other things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a funny one because like I came across it in 2010, I believe it was, with Heart Math Institute and a guy called Greg Braden. They did work into it, and I find it fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I should never really, even when it goes back to the whole meditation thing, I was like, but why do people meditate? What is the purpose for it? Because I've never done these sort of meditation that people would do. Like for me, my meditation was just a chat with myself every evening.
Mm-hmm.
And answers came because I felt like if I had to do an external thing to calm me down, then I'm almost attached to that tool to do so.
Yeah.
So I was like, I needed to attain a level where I could access that thing I wanted without having to do X steps to get there. But again, it was a skill over time I developed,
Mm-hmm.
but I was never one for like active meditation or sitting there and quieting my thoughts.
Yeah.
I learned to just let them, I observe them almost. I let them flow by. I don't really get caught in them. And then when I do find myself getting caught in a thought, I will just pull myself out of it and let it pass by like the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think so.
The first time I meditated, I actually I don't know, I did it too well. I started to float up out of my body and I freaked myself out and I slammed back down into my body and I didn't try it again for a very, very, very long time. But I just realized that I think instead of meditating, because I was very drawn to the idea, but then, in my mind, in my subconscious, I think I just put a wall up. Okay, that's not for me. I'm not going to do that. So I think instead my mind, and maybe my heart too, but developed a way of meditating, like you said, sitting down and having a chat with myself. I started to, from that point on, create, I don't know, like a council within myself.
Yeah,
And
so
I
I did
think
the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's how I meditate now.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, it's like I guess that is meditation, isn't it? It's like who's to say that this is meditation, that's meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation is what you perceive of it to be like. So it's been a staple for the last 20 years of my life, and I'll do it every morning and evening. Have a chat, have a little laugh with myself, and I go to bed like a happy bunny, and I wake up the same way, innit? So it's like I'm setting myself up to the day, because I always feel like you should never take today's worries into tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I mean, even now, like when I light my candles on my night, I'm like, okay, what am I trying to get here? So it's more of a case now of just thanking my world and my angel, and just sitting there in sort of like a happy little joy with myself, because I don't feel like I need to do something to calm me down or put me in some state. But again, that's just me. It doesn't mean what everyone else does is wrong. That's just that's just how I process things. Because again, I never kind of got the idea of like sitting there and doing certain things to meditate, because I was like, what are you trying to get away from? But I can understand why people do it as well.
Yeah. Well, and just like there's so many religions to help people find God. There's a million different ways, I'm sure, if you start looking to meditate. Some people use psychedelics to do that. There's different ways for everyone, I think.
That's it then. So it's just finding the tool that works for you. So yeah, like I guess my meditation is that self chat.
That's awesome.
Because I don't even do much breath work anymore as well, because it's great, but what was I trying to achieve from doing it, basically. That's what I try these things about what am I looking to get from these things, basically. What is the outcome of it? So if I'm going to do something, I'm very much like, what am I trying to get from it? I'm not going to just do it for the sake of doing it, sort of thing.
Right.
It's one thing why I haven't done psychedelics yet, because I still don't know what I'm going to achieve from them. I mean, I microdosed mushrooms, but even that I had nothing from it.
Yeah.
So let's see because I always feel like I felt that you could achieve these states without external things.
Yes.
But I also know that these tools do have a purpose as well, because they can take you to another sort of world as well. But I guess right now that's not calling out for me. But
yeah, me either. I feel like I'm so centered in myself now that I have plenty to process, and I don't need to add any more.
Sort of things, yeah. And and it's like I mean, like going back to like psychedelics, like I love the idea of ayahuasca, for example. But every story that I've heard of people who've done it or have gone on trips, it's kind of been the similar message of it showing them their shadow self. And I was like, in some ways, a shape or form, I did that without having to do that. So it's like, okay, but then I guess ayahuasca will give me its own message for me as well. So, but again, it doesn't call to me yet. So when it does, I'll seek its guidance. But for now, it's like, no.
You hear stories about people who go into an ayahuasca ceremony thinking like, oh, here it is. I'm really going to get a tongue lashing from the Great Mother, and then they go and they have this beautiful experience where they're just loved and accepted. And, the plant medicine just shows them all of the beautiful things about themselves, know? So
one thing I took away from a couple of friends is that they were like, they loved the experience, but they didn't know how to translate that experience into their 3D world out of it. So that's one thing I think I'd look into, actually, if I was to do it, is like, whatever I was to take away from it, how can I put it into this 3-dimensional world, basically? But again, it hasn't called to me yet. So
yeah. Okay, I should probably wrap this up. We're at almost an hour and 20 minutes. That's good. That's a good thing. I love it. You are welcome to come back anytime. This is really wonderful. Well, this could be the place where you get comfortable, maybe. I don't know. Whatever you want.
Definitely.
But I think you could have your own podcast. Like you would
You know what? You're not the first person to say that to me. Yeah. It's a case of like I think too much, basically. I used to just do it simple.
Simple. We could get you set up like in 45 minutes. You'd be ready to go. Yeah. And think of all of the conversations that you could have.
But this is it. This is what I love. It's about like, I'm grateful that for your time, because time is the most precious gift to give someone, and you've almost listened to me. So it's like, I would love to listen to people.
Yes. That's why I love this.
That's the exchange, isn't it? And so I would definitely look into this. You're probably like the 20th person to say this to me now.
Well, I mean, think about it this way, it can only bring benefit into your life, truly.
100%.
And it could bring some like nasty haters or something, but at this point, who cares? Like,
but then
I just laugh at those people.
Yeah. Well, if we've got haters, we're doing something right, aren't we? So that's the way to look at it. If people are hating on you, then you're doing something right. So
that's right.
So it's just I think I'm very much a kind of like I live a very minimal way, but then I'm also quite, I wouldn't say a perfectionist, but I like things to be a certain way. And that's maybe so I think I always imagine it to be like the finished product, but I'm like, no, it's got to start somewhere. And that's what I got to remember, is that the first one will be the way it is, and then the second, third, and slowly it will be a streamlined process. But the first one's just a case of just doing it and getting it out there and making it work.
If you want to go back and listen to, I believe it's the 3rd episode of my podcast. It's me and one of my clients that I absolutely adore. He is just such a sweet spirit, and he's, struggling. He's just trying to figure his stuff out. But we got drunk. He was nervous. And I said, buddy, I'm going to come over and I'm going to bring a bottle of tequila. And we're going to do shots, and you're going to talk to me like you do. He's one of my hair clients. So I said, you're going to talk to me like you do when we're in the salon. And he said, oh my God, I would love that. And so that's what we did. And it was, hold on, here we go. It's called Reality Surfacing, better than podcast number 3, Reality Surfacing. But,
I know what stops me. And it
Yeah.
goes back to what we talked about originally about the space thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. So once that's kind of created, then it'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that going back to what we talked about originally, that's the thing that stops me from moving forward, that space element. But I'm in the process of changing that soon enough. So yeah.
Oh, I would love to hear about that off air, like when we're done. Yeah, I would love to hear about that and just hear how you're doing in general, for sure.
Because like I know the effect I have, you know, and I know what I can do, and this is my confidence to people that look, I can remind people how amazing they are, and I'm definitely wasting myself by letting external factors interfere with me, and I need to basically, I am practicing what I preach, but I also need to do it to the nth degree now and do it properly as well. So yeah. It's definitely, because I'm otherwise, like, everything I went through and the experience I did would just be in vain.
Yes.
You know, and I've already, like, I've made an impact already in people in the world, you know, and without coming across arrogant, you know, there are people living better lives because of me, because of the interactions we had.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to give that to people because I'm fortunate enough to have gone through a lot of pain, but the way I was able to process it was in love, and my life has been phenomenal since. You know, I've done things that people would dream of, and I think if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I'm nothing special. You know, ultimately everyone is me and I'm them, so why not? Yeah. So yeah, that's what I look on. So my gift want to be to the world is to make people realize that you're as powerful as any other person, you know, and yeah, so it definitely needs to happen now.
Yeah, it needs to happen now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just grow old and you're like, I should have done that, should have done this.
No, you know? now is the time, always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great place to end it.
I mean, the name's there already for the podcast, so, you know, just make it happen.